I did a podcast called American Minutes. You can kind of see it back there. That's my girlfriend made that for me. God bless her. It was about politics, and that took a lot of prep and research. Now, that was just a headache. It made me sad. It made me depressed. And eventually it's like, it's hard to keep up with. So we stopped doing it because I got a business to run. So how much prep does it take? Like, you got to watch the sports. You got to read the news. You got to get opinions. You got to meet up with your other co-hosts, your fellow bitches. So like, walk me through how much time it takes in like the hardest part of all the prep.
The time it takes... Like, I know if we do have show notes, I usually make the show notes. So I know for them, probably the most amount of time probably goes into like watching the games and then like forming an opinion about the games. And then like they'll get my show notes and be like, oh shit, I didn't even look at all this other stuff. For me, it's like there's not a day goes by that I'm not preparing for the following week's episode, because we always start off with a segment called Shout Outs and Call Outs. And so to prepare for that, I'm basically researching any and everything that I've ever been interested in sports. What's going on with tennis? Is anything going on with Naomi Osaka? Is anything happening with Simone Biles? Sometimes throughout the week, they'll send me stuff on Instagram and I'll be like, oh, I should talk about this. So it's compiling all these notes and basically trying to get my facts straight. Because sometimes, you'll see a social media post or a headline, and then you read the article and you realize, oh, there's a lot more to this story than just this headline. And so it becomes like researching and then editing down, because you don't want your shout outs and call outs to take an hour and a half by themselves. So it's like, okay, now I have this headline. Now I have to research it. And then now I have to figure out how to talk about it in a way that doesn't take forever and still convey the most important parts. And I would say the second most difficult part is when it comes to the main teams that we like to talk about, which right now are the Cowboys, the Saints, and the Oklahoma Sooners for the most part. And basketball season is ramping up. So we're going to be talking about the Suns and the Bulls and the Spurs.
And the Bucks.
And the Bucks, yes. Can't forget the Bucks. I would say the hardest part about that is balancing. For me, I like to balance my opinion with actual stats, because you can look at a game and be like, so-and-so played terribly. But then I have to look at the score and look at the box score and be like, well, wait a minute. Did they play terribly? Like with wide receivers, for example, that was something we discussed several weeks ago, because a lot of people were getting on CeeDee Lamb. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. He was only targeted like 3 times. Like, what can we really expect if, Dak isn't even throwing in the ball? So things like that. Or even like this past Sunday, how people are like, oh, well, the Cowboys were garbage on both sides of the ball. And I look at the box score and I'm like, well, the Cowboys defense was on the field for 40 something minutes,
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you look at the amount of points.
Yeah. All things considered, how it should have been as opposed to what it was. Yeah.
And so diving into stuff like that, I would say is the hardest part, because it takes so long and it involves so much nuance and so much research. And today I actually had to bust out a calculator to calculate points per minute and stuff. And yeah.
For me, it's like when I'm on, social media, reading the news or whatever, and like something comes up and I read the headline and then I read the article, and then it's like, oh shit, well, hold up, let me go see, because I see this that is related to this, but it's not really into this, but let me see if it's related. So I have to go and research that and make sure that it's connected or not, and like all that stuff. So then we can come back and talk about it.
That's the end of the clip. I hope you learned something about prep and how much time it takes to put into a podcast. If you don't have a podcast, realize if you want to start one, it takes a lot of work to start and prep to prepare. And for a sports podcast specifically, can't imagine doing that every single week. But check them out. Links in the description down below. Like, share, subscribe. The works. Hit the dislike button. You won't see it, but I'll see it if you really want to. Hope you don't, but if you do, it's there. Good luck.